Got the best coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmet's casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Take your tech. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
Hey, all right. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another DFS Army Killshot MMA Breakdown podcast. Today, we are looking at UFC on ESPN, Makhachev versus Moises. Nice card, 11 fights. Pretty standard UFC on ESPN type of card. And with me, as always, to break down these fights from a fantasy perspective, first and foremost. We're going to go through the whole card. I've got the GOATs themselves. Dan Levi of Best Fight Picks. What's up, my brother?
Chilling, man. All is good in the world. Dustin Poirier won, so one in the column for the good guys.
Hell yeah. And Big Marley's here. And Big Marley, can we now officially put Conor McGregor into the went too far, used to be fun with the ham thing, now he's just a douche category?
Yeah, that's definitely more what it seemed like for sure. I didn't feel too bad for him, actually, after that leg break. Usually I'm like cringing and like, oh, no, I feel so bad for him. I was like, yeah, he kind of deserved it. Oh, well. On to the next one. And this one, I mean, it's definitely a lackluster card coming off such a big card like that, but they're still giving us 100K up top. That's a nice one. And then there's a whole lot of favorites that have big potential on DraftKings. So I'm kind of excited to see how it plays out ownership-wise. Yeah,
this week's card is really, really interesting. There's a couple of spots where, I mean, we'll get into it. Massive favorites. There are some spots where it's the clearest high-scoring DraftKings fight like you're ever going to see, ever. And that makes for a comfortable way of constructing lineups. But just to go back to Conor being a douche. Okay, so, you know, I admit, I was a fan. I like the shtick. I like the bad guys, right? Like when I watched WWF in my day, wrestling, I like the bad guy. I was into the ham character. And Conor did a great ham character. But first, it started with the crazy shit of throwing the stuff at the bus and all of that, right? Okay. I think we all forgave it. I figured like, all right, maybe he took it a little too far. You know, that whole scene seemed very like maybe pushing the issue. Then the guy is out beating up old dudes at bars, and you're like, all right, man, something's wrong with this character. And this is just, I mean, is there any redemption for him, Dan Levi?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, and everyone makes mistakes, right? Maybe not to this extent, but in 5 to 10 years, if he cleaned up his act, then it's a thing of the past. And when I used to mess with Conor McGregor, it was never because he was the bad guy. It was because he was the witty, intelligent, articulate, unique, original, quotable, memorable guy. Plus his fighting style was so badass. And it just seemed like the guy was destined for great things. But now you see him going out there and doing things that are so questionable. And after the fight, it used to be humble in victory and defeat. Now he's threatening people's wives and kids after defeat. So it's just not the same guy that we used to, or at least I used to think so fondly of. Because I don't know if, like, I know people label me now as some Conor hater, but I don't know if people remember that I was the guy betting him against Jose Aldo. I was the guy betting him against Chad Mendes. I was the guy betting him against Dustin Poirier in 2014. So for him to get off my good side, and I don't even know the guy, but like when you're threatening people's wife and kids, I just can't do it no more. And Dustin Poirier has maintained his integrity throughout his entire career, in addition to his exciting fighting style. So it couldn't have happened to a better guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Love Dustin, and he's all class. And I mean, Marley, I got to throw this at you. You know, I'm a big Colby fan as well, right? He does the ham thing, but I think he does it right. Like he gets two hot chicks, he slaps his hand on the right. You know, he does. To me, he's doing it the right way. am I going to get burned by another motherfucker who takes it then too far at some point? Like, is this going to happen with my boy Colby as well? Or is this Connor just a psycho?
I don't know. I mean, with Colby, I feel like it's all just an act with him. It doesn't feel real at all, so I don't know. I don't really buy into it, but I don't really pay too much attention to what they say outside of the octagon, really. I don't listen to interviews like I used to anymore, so if it's not showing up on my Twitter, I'm probably not seeing it.
There we go. I just don't know. I agree with you 100%, though. The Colby thing feels like a WWF act, and that's why I like it. I used to kind of think that Connor was kind of putting on a show. Now I think that's not. I think he's that guy. That's who he is. He is that asshole that he's portraying. Like, with Colby, all right, just putting on a show, and I like that. I think that's important in UFC. I think for the popularity. Anyway, let's move on, guys. We got a card coming up. Is it the greatest card? Again, I say this every once in a while. Is this the greatest UFC card I've ever seen? No. Was this a little harder to research because most of the fighters, or a lot of them, kind of like I don't know who they are, or I didn't necessarily know who they were before going into fight research? Yes, that's kind of annoying. But it's very bettable, and going through it, there's some very exciting fights for DraftKings purposes and FanDuel. And one of the things I like fewer fights, guys. I like an 11 fight card. I feel like you could find the nuts lineup with fewer cards as long as you know which fights to go all in on. So we're going to try to get that figured out for you guys. We're going to start right at the bottom of this card, move our way up to the main event. Main event, I don't want to spoiler alert it, but pretty confident in the winner in that one. But we'll start at the bottom. We'll work our way up. Let's start with the first fight of the night. We've got Alain Badeau. Daniel, tell me if I said that right. Taking on Rodrigo Nascimento. Okay. Nascimento's coming in as a pretty big favorite, minus 355, with Badeau, the underdog, at plus 270. This is important. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 400. So we talk about this all the time, Dan. First fight of the night, very, very important for DraftKings purposes. Now, I need you to help me with this. What is it about Rodrigo Nascimento, who didn't look that great to me in what I saw, that makes him that much better than Alain Badeau, who also didn't look that great to me for what I've seen? Like, why is he such a heavy favorite? What's going on here?
Well, I mean, the reason he's such a heavy favorite is because he's better than this guy across the board. I mean, Alain Badeau has no business in the UFC. If you look at his record, and it says he beat Todd Stout to get into the UFC. Well, you go back and you watch that Todd Stout fight, he got choked out by Todd Stout. But it happens to be in one of the worst regional scenes of all time, TKO up in Canada. And I think Todd Stout got disqualified because he was smoking marijuana, So they gave Badeau the win, but Badeau did not win that fight. Badeau's got zero ground game.
Wait, Badeau lost that fight?
He got dominated.
He got his ass whooped by some scrub. Okay, that's not good. All right.
Well, I can't confirm nor deny if Todd Stout's a scrub. I don't really know him aside from that fight. But what I do know is that he dominated Alain Badeau. What Badeau's got going for him is, I guess, he's a big guy. He's got some spins, and I mean, he catches you with one of those spins, you could go out. So maybe there's a knockout chance, but he's not going to dominate any fight from start to finish. Nascimento, we know he's got a ground game. I mean, he went out there, he choked out his opponent on Contender Series, choked out his opponent in his UFC debut. Unfortunately, he fought the number 9 guy on planet Earth in his subsequent appearance. Lost that fight. It is what it is. Alain Badeau doesn't have the hand speed of Chris Daukaus. I got Rodrigo Nascimento, one takedown, and the fight will be over shortly after.
I love it. Big Marl, man, that sounds like this is going to be a really important card fight to target on your DraftKings lineup. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, same thing. I'm just going to X Badeau out. He's the worst fighter in the UFC. He's going to get dominated round 1. Give me Nascimento. Probably first round sub, but he can, get a ground and pound finish. Really whatever he wants to do here. Badeau's really not good at all. He's just like he's light on his feet for a heavyweight. It's really the only good thing I could say about him.
There we go. I love it. Black Samurai also happens to be 33 years old, so a little bit late to get good in your career. If he was 21 and it's 2 years past or something like that, there'd be something to talk about. But that sounds pretty cut and dry, guys. I'm not going to add much to it. So here we go. First fight of the night, Rodrigo Nascimento. Look for a high-scoring, inside-the-distance finish, and probably a must-have in your DraftKings, FanDuel, and Super Draft lineups this week. minus 400 inside the distance. Let me just, I need to see this. Nascimento by submission plus 100. So that's what the odds makers think. Nascimento inside the distance minus 215. So there you go. There you go. Really high odds of him getting an inside the distance finish here. All right, let's move on to fight number 2. We've got Little Figs, Francisco Figueiredo, Little Figgy, taking on Malcolm Gordon. Figueiredo, let me bring this on screen. Figueiredo is a minus 310 favorite with Gordon a plus 240 underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision, another fairly high minus 180. So Big Marley, second fight of the night. Interestingly, especially given the size of these guys, also looks like a potential inside the distance finish in the cards here. What can you tell me about these two fighters?
Yeah, Gordon, he's decent offensively, I'd say, on the feet and on the ground, but he just cannot take a punch. Like, it's not like his brain gives out and he's flatlined. Like, you could just tell he does not like getting hit, and his legs start to wobble, and it's so easy to knock out. So that's what I think is going to end up happening here. He's going to take some big shots from Figueiredo, and I don't think he's going to like it. But I also don't think he can dictate where this fight takes place. I feel like Figueiredo is probably the better wrestler, probably the better offensive grappler as well. So I like Figueiredo in this one, and this is why the card's so interesting to me, is because I have Nascimento round 1 finish. I got Figueiredo round 1 finish. There's some other guys here on the card with big round 1 potential. We got Makhachev on the card, and all these guys are priced up high, so I just don't exactly know how lineup construction is going to be, because I have a feeling we want 2 people that are priced 8.7K and up this week, and like we've already gone over 2 at the start of the card that I like to win in round 1. So you might see a handful of lineups with Figueiredo and Nascimento, and hopefully I'm sitting up there with 250 points going into the third fight. But this is kind of a trend I think that's going to be moving forward on this card, is there's big ceilings for these with these heavy favorites, and I like Figueiredo to get an early finish over Gordon.
Dan, I have to ask you this question because we're seeing Figueiredo coming off of that win against Rivera. We just saw Rivera last week, and quite honestly, I don't know that that might be the worst fighter I've ever seen. Like, I don't know. He was terrible, right? Getting choked out the way he did was just disgusting. So are we overvaluing what we think of Figueiredo based on that fight? Or has he developed a resume where I can assume he's going to get multiple takedowns every single fight, and that he's, this 4 takedowns per 15 minute kind of number and these sort of stats? Are we fooled a little bit here by his fight against like the worst fighter ever? Or is it legit? Is he a solid favorite here against Malcolm Gordon?
Look, man, I can't project if he's going to hit takedowns in fights down the line or how he's going to perform after this fight. But all I know is he's knocking out Malcolm Gordon Saturday night in Las Vegas, Nevada. Malcolm Gordon is, let's just put it this way. Cody Durden, my buddy that had a draw with Chris Gutierrez and got caught by Jimmy Flick. I was telling him to beg his management for a fight with Malcolm Gordon. Malcolm Gordon, I got money on Kevin and Big Marley against Malcolm Gordon. Like, you
don't put money on me, bro.
You throw a little paper ball at this guy's chin, and it's going to be a delayed reaction knockout. I don't care if this is, Davison's shitty brother or this and that. I don't care about if he's never going to be a top 15 guy. None of that matters. All that matters is you talk about how Jerome Rivera is the worst guy. This guy's worse than Jerome Rivera.
Oh, boy.
I got Francisco Rivera first round finish. Excuse me. Francisco Figueiredo, not Rivera.
What could be worse than the fact that if Rivera was going up against Gordon, Dan would bet Rivera.
Rivera. Give me Rivera all day there, baby. Listen, like, at least with Rivera, there aren't really too many at leasts, but with Malcolm Gordon, it's like a ghost punch will knock this guy out. Whereas at least Rivera, he did get dropped in most of those fights, but they were bombs that hit him. You don't have to hit Malcolm Gordon with a bomb to put him down.
I want to show you where we're at right here on DraftKings so far. We're only 2 fights, two breakdowns in, right? We've already said Nashimoto, a borderline must play for the early finish, right? We've already said Figueiredo, a borderline must play for that early finish as well, right? 2 expensive guys in there. So I'm just building up to the fact, and Lemos is hanging out over here as well. There's a lot. Vieira's hanging out right here as well. So I'm breaking this part down because I want everybody to be thinking about part of these breakdowns is going to be, do I play Islam in every single lineup or not? And the way that you think of a lineup coming together and being constructed, you just can't do this, right? You just can't have that situation. You got to give some people up. So who do you give up? So keep this in mind as we're going through this breakdown. There's a lot of high priced. This is the polar opposite of what we've had the last few weeks, where there weren't high priced fighters that even gave a shit about rostering in a lot of these cards. Here, a lot of the high priced fighters are very, very sexy for early finishes. And so we may set up a scenario where paying for the most expensive lock win in the main event favorite might not be what you want to do in your lineup. So keep it in mind. I wanted to just kind of mention that before we move on to the next fight. But it's really interesting. And, I'm not going to add anything to those breakdowns, man. You guys broke them down. Great. So let's move on to fight number 3. Miles John taking on ADS Anderson Dos Santos. Now, this is not Brett Johns. This is a different Johns. But he also likes to wrestle from what I've seen. But he's no Brett Johns. Miles Johns. Minus 190 for the favorite Johns, with Dos Santos coming in at plus 155. Fight goes to decision, a solid minus 170. So this fight does not look like the first two. Looks a little bit different. So Dan, I'm going to go to you here. How do you see these two guys matching up stylistically for this one?
I think that Miles Johns kind of plays it safe. He's he's a good decision guy, but not ideal for DraftKings. I know his last fight, he knocked out Natividad. I highly doubt that happens here. Anderson Dos Santos is a lot more durable. Honestly, I think if there's a finish, it's going to be on the Anderson Dos Santos side. So maybe you think he comes out here and catches Miles Johns, drops him, submits him, or something like that. I think that he could make a good underdog punt, but most likely it's going to be a boring decision win by Miles Johns. And in that case, I don't want any exposure to it on DraftKings.
One great thing, Dan, is like on a card like this, where you're locking in multiple sexy pay-up options that you got to play those guys, right? You could uncheck, just unfriend this guy. Sorry, Miles Johns, you're small, 135. Don't bring much to the table. BigMarley, do you think Miles, is there takedown upside here? I'm looking at Dos Santos. He seems to, he's got a Brazilian last name. He probably isn't a guy that you could just submit. He knows his BJJ, 66% takedown defense. The volume isn't great here. How does scoring happen in this fight?
Yeah, for Johns, a knockout's really how he would score highly. He's got some big power, or he would need a takedown heavy type of decision, but I just don't think that's the smartest idea because Dos Santos is dangerous on the ground. You should probably just try to fight your way to a decision win. So yeah, that's how I would see Johns winning, but Dos Santos more experienced. I think he's more dangerous everywhere. So he's one of the underdogs I like on this card just for his DraftKings potential, really. I think if anyone's going to score highly in this matchup, it's going to be him. He is cheap. He allows us to get those guys we want in our lineups. But he's just more of a boom-bust play. I don't see him scoring highly at all in a decision. It's finish or bust for him, and I'm just going to take him to get that finish because I'm not too impressed with Johns. He's not going to be a high-paced fighter, really. It's just a big shot on the feet, or he's a good wrestler that I don't know that he wants to use. So give me ADS to get an upset finish.
I love it. First of all, I love the pick of ADS there. And also, listen, I agree with both of you guys. This is for fantasy purposes, this is a dog or pass. Miles Johns, at 135, getting a flash knockout and outscoring, Vieira and, Nascimento and Figueiredo. It just doesn't seem, and Islam seems unlikely enough that I probably don't want to waste lineups doing that. I'm willing to roll that dice that's not going to happen. And got to go ADS. You need some underdogs, and this is a close fight, so I'm with you both on this one. All right, let's move on. Next fight, we've got Khalid Sheikh Taha taking on Sergey Morozov. Morozov. Sergey Morozov. All right, another close fight with Khalid Taha coming in as the slight minus 150 favorite, and Morozov, a slight plus 128 underdog. Another high decision prop here. Big Marley at minus 187 goes to decision. So I just want to know here, again, another fight. How do you think this one plays out? Is there any wrestling to be expected here? Or are we looking at just a low volume striking battle? What are we looking at here?
Yeah, we could see some wrestling from Morozov. I think he's just a more well-rounded fighter here. I think he could have success on the ground, and I think he just has more tools in his striking arsenal as well, where Taha, for him to score highly, it's going to have to be a knockout. He's just going to be head hunting. That's really what he does, but he's not a high-paced striker. He's not going to be looking for takedowns. So for DraftKings, it's probably knockout or bust for Taha. And I'll probably take my chances that he just doesn't get it because I'm way more interested in these other favorites on the card. But Morozov is going to be one of my favorite underdogs because he's an underdog I'm picking to win. I think there's only 2 or 3 that I'm picking to win on this card. He's one of them, and I'm picking him to win by unanimous decision. I just think he can kind of make it clear here, just have a better game plan going there and work his full game of MMA and avoid the big shots from Taha. So give me the underdog in this one.
I love it. Dan, I can't hold too much against Morozov for losing to Umar Nurmagomedov in his UFC debut. No shame in that. So do you agree with Big Marley that Morozov is one of the stronger underdog dice rolls on this card?
Yeah, definitely. And especially if you can avoid that early power. Well, not just early power, but that power period of Taha. Taha hits like a truck, and he's got some of the best supplements in the game. So he's going to come in here. I know he had that no contest against Bruno Silva, but don't expect him to look deflated. This guy is a very well-connected individual. So my concern here is the physicality of Taha being too much for Morozov. Morozov, I agree with Marley. He's the more well-rounded guy here. He's definitely got a wrestling path. So if he can implement that, I think he's a live dog. I'm just worried about, him getting caught with one punch. He has been knocked out before, and I'm worried about the physicality of Taha. But I was really impressed with that Umar Nurmagomedov fight, man. I felt like that was a great fight between 2 prospects until Umar started to kind of take over, but it's a completely different matchup here. I'm going to also go with Morozov to get it done.
Yeah, I got to say, watching that fight, it didn't make me think Morozov was bad. I watched that fight to prep for this, and I was like, ooh, this Umar is good. I didn't get the sense that Sergey bad. I really was watching that fight and just being like, oh shit, I need to write down Umar's name. Not that it's hard to remember anybody who's in Nurmagomedov, but my real takeaway was Umar's really good. Listen, here's the thing. Taha's got a weakness, and his weakness is his grappling. It's that simple. Like, my boy is not a good grappler, or that's where he's uncomfortable. I've seen him taken down in the UFC. He doesn't want to grapple. He wants to keep it standing, so he'll be fighting those takedowns. I like Morozov here as well, the underdog. I'm always going to lean on the grappler or the guy who has that skill set in their arsenal. So, yeah, I like this is one of those spots where I like the underdog. I don't have much interest at all in Taha. The volume's not there. He needs a flash KO early. Sure, you can account for that with a couple of hints of exposure, but don't need too much of it. Really don't. All right, let's move on. Next fight on the card. Bit of a mismatch here, I think, boys. We've got Amanda Lemos taking on Montserrat Ruiz. Lemos, a giant minus 520 favorite here, with Ruiz coming in as a hefty plus 370 underdog. Interesting, about even odds that the fight either goes to decision or doesn't. Now, straight up, Marley, this feels like a fight. This feels like a card where you're just going to parlay a whole bunch of shit. Like, you're just starting your parlay and you're like, Makhachev, Lemos, maybe I'll throw Figs and Nascimento in there and just create some stuff like, is this just like a straight parlay piece? Do we even have to be worried about headlocks and arm throws and the stuff that the 5 foot tall Ruiz brings to the table?
Yeah, it's like a Bellator card. You know who the clear favorites are going into it, and they're probably going to get the job done. That's how I feel about this one. Lemos just going to be better everywhere.
Oh boy, Jonathan Ramirez, bro.
Yeah, I mean, for Ruiz to win, she's going to need just a shit ton of control time or a submission. But I just don't think she's a good enough wrestler to do that. I think Lemos is the way better striker. She's going to destroy her on the feet. And I also think she could have success on the ground against Ruiz as well. So, yeah, I like Lemos here. And I don't even know that I want to roster Ruiz. I think if she somehow does win, she's going to score well. But I just think it's a real long shot. So give me the favorite. And the only issue is affording her when I want all these expensive favorites.
I mean, I only need to know one thing, boys. Can Ruiz wrestle? Not Ruiz. Can Lemos wrestle? Does she have BJJ? Because my girl Ruiz, at her size, she had nothing. She won her other fight literally with a headlock. I use that move. Well, Gabe's got it, man. I used to use that move back in junior high school. The headlock. That was the only move I knew. But this is a trained fighter, and she's using she's using that. So, Dan, I mean, Lemos, she's a grappler. No, she's got some BJJ.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing with Lemos that we got to talk about is that she dropped 2 weight classes. And when you drop 2 weight classes and you go down to strawweight, that power is going to translate like nothing else. Just like look at Jessica Andrade. And power in that weight class counts for a lot, man. So because these girls aren't used to being hit like that. So that's what Lemos is going to do. She's going to touch her. And I think that as tough as Ruiz is, because I truly believe that she's a tough chick, man. I mean, I was impressed with her prior to her UFC run. I was like, this girl can win some UFC fights. She won her debut. The difference here is I don't think Ruiz has ever been hit by someone like Lemos before. So when that first punch lands, it's going to be like a oh shit moment. I didn't realize that girls my weight could punch like that. So you got to go with Lemos here. I mean, there's going to be fights where Ruiz gets that head and arm throw and headlocks people and stuff like that. Just not Saturday night.
I'm sorry. Her win was against Cheyenne the Fraud base. All right. I actually had a lot of exposure to Ruiz. She might have been a kill shot because that line was so ridiculous. Baze had no background in anything to show that she deserved to be a -4 or 5, whatever it was, 500 favorite against anybody. And I just think that she got a win against someone who was not even close to UFC level. Lemos has proven at UFC level, wins against decent opponents. This is just, man, Jonathan Ramirez, bro. No, this is like straight Mexican favoritism by Jonathan, I think is what's going on here, because there's no way that we got to switch up that kill shot for you. I mean, that's a tough one. And of course, now that I've ripped on it a little bit, she's going to win. So get some exposure to it. But overall, yeah, guys, Lemos, another one. I think for me, Lemos is the dark horse of the pay-ups because you have all these other sexier pay-up options over here where Lemos is going to be hanging out at 9,300. Like, dude, you're going to roster that. But if she does something crazy, she'll be at very, very low ownership in a perfect lineup. So you talk about how you win the monies. Sometimes it's choosing to play Lemos over some of these other sexier options that you have to pay up for. Although, again, with all those great options, I ain't going to want a whole lot of it. So, be that as it may. Let's move on to the next fight on the card. We've got D-Rod taking on Preston Parsons. Short notice, Preston Parsons. Rodriguez, -310. With the comeback on Parsons at +240. Fight doesn't go to decision, a surprising for me, -300. This is a surprise. I didn't see that before. So, I mean, Dan, -300 doesn't go to decision here. Did you look at this fight and think I mean, we know D-Rod, good boxer, just good all-around fighter. I don't know too much about Preston Parsons making a debut, 10 days notice. Did you see like a finish happening here for D-Rod?
I mean, look, there's definitely a possibility. This kid, Preston Parsons, definitely earned his UFC opportunity. My question was always, is he actually a welterweight? Because I think there might have been a chance that he fought at 55 at some point. I know he fought Mike Perry at an 160-pound catch weight. Okay, so 160 is the lowest. No, his MMA debut was at 55. I knew I was onto something. So this guy's a former lightweight. I guess now, he's 26 years old. He feels like he can fight at welterweight. So I've known about Parsons for a while. I'm pretty sure I had him on Half the Battle like 4 or 5 years ago. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty damn sure I had him on my show. He's tough, man. He's been in there with some good guys. He beat Ignacio Bahamondes, who's in the UFC. He fought with Mike Perry. So it's not like this is his first look at UFC competition. However, D-Rod's really been doing his thing, and you can make an argument that D-Rod's undefeated in the UFC. I kind of thought he won that Dalby fight. So I expect D-Rod to, use his sound boxing and win this fight. It's just about, is he going to play it safe or not? That's the big question here, especially when it comes to DraftKings, because, if I know I'm getting an aggressive D-Rod that's going to pursue that finish, then I definitely am looking to roster him. But if he feels like, hey, like this is a high pressure situation, a lose-lose fight, let's just go ahead, play it safe, win the decision. Then the next fight, when you get matched up with a higher ranked opponent, then he can, take more risks. So it's just about how risk averse is D-Rod here. As far as Parsons goes, good pressure style. I don't really see him getting the upset, but it's just about D-Rod's approach. So you're taking a gamble on the approach here.
Yeah, I feel that. And stylistically, BigMarley, from what I've seen out of Parsons, he's been a submission guy. So, he's been getting his wins, taking his opponent down and getting that sub. And, so D-Rod not known for his offensive grappling per se, but pretty good takedown defense, seems competent in the wrestling arena, even if I haven't seen a whole lot of it out of him. Do you think that there's risk here in Parsons that remember that fight where I can't remember. He was like friends with Gregor Gillespie. Seemed like a scrub. He comes in and he like dominated the shit out of, I think it was Abdul Razak Al Hassan or one of those like killer guys, right? Came in and just wrestled the shit out of them the whole fight. Was that, am I thinking of the right guy?
Yeah, Whitaker's friend.
Yeah, it was like Whitaker's friend. And
Jacob
he like what's that?
Jacob Malkoon.
They fucking know the name. I love it. So yeah, well, Malkoon. Is there some like Jacob Malkoon risk here where we're not, Parsons is kind of like a wrestler, grappler, and D-Rod really isn't. Could he come in and just like be successful at taking this guy down and holding him down 3 rounds, maybe even grabbing a sub along the way?
I think that's his only shot is to grapple and ideally a submission. I don't know how D-Rod would look off of his back, and I feel like he's a good enough wrestler to
we haven't seen it.
Avoid takedowns. Yeah, I don't know. But I do think he smokes Parsons on the feet. I do see it being a TKO if Parsons can't get takedowns, and it's short notice. There's no telling what kind of shape this guy's in. If he's going for an early submission, going for takedowns and failing, he'll probably gas out and get finished along the way. So it's another one where I really like the favorite if I can afford him. But I also can't X out Parsons. Like I would be Xing out a lot of these other underdogs we've been talking about. But with Parsons, I think he could break the slate. Maybe he gets an early takedown and Rodriguez can't really do much about it, and he can work his way to a rear naked choke or something like that. I think he has high upside, but I'm not willing to invest much in it. I just think this is a good GPP fight both ways. But give me Rodriguez to get a knockout.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. Again, and I'm going to just bring it back around to the theme of this card, which is D-Rod, another pay-up option. In comparison to Islam, in comparison to Nascimento, in comparison to Figs, I think you got to have him in the mix. He could get that finish, but maybe I'll be a little bit lower on him than I might be like a Nascimento and Islam situation. But, or even Lemos. And now each name that we're going through is like, yeah, totally inappropriate pay-up option on this card. So we're going to really have to work our exposures. I think a lot of these guys are going to win their fight and score well. So now we're really playing a game of trying to figure out which one of them not just wins, but outscores the other one. I like a card like this. This is a style that I really enjoy. So I'm excited to sort of mix and match my lineups based around these guys. But I'm going to say that D-Rod is not going to be at the top of my exposure list on the pay-up options as of right now. We'll see if that changes.
He's like one of the very few volume guys on this whole card, though. The guy's been a volume machine, averaging almost 8 landed significant strikes per minute, going to decisions. So I don't know. I think even in a decision, he can score 100 plus here.
He could get there, but he's going to need a knockdown. It's almost impossible unless it's Sean O'Malley going up against the human green hair zombie boy. You rarely see, the 200 strikes landed that you borderline need in order to get enough volume over 3 rounds to pass 100 without some other, takedown or something else, man. But how about that fight? We didn't even talk about that. Fucking what a warrior that kid was. I can't remember his name, but what a warrior.
Herb Dean.
Yeah, I mean, Herb Dean took away his complete shutout, but that was quite an awesome fight to watch. All right, let's move on. We've got Billy Quarantillo taking on Gabriel Benitez, with Benitez as the slight -168 favorite. Quarantillo plus 136. Dan, Quarantillo did a duet. You, me, raps. Fuck, I can't remember. You know what? I'm not going to let this go. You, me, my boy Tuvan Anthony. There we go. I got the name. Tuvan. Shout out to Tuvan. Does awesome breakdowns, rap breakdowns from every card. Shout out to Dan for fucking grooving in that thing, man. You're looking good. So Quarantillo appears in the video. Now he's fighting this week, and now I feel like we're boys, and I have to root for him. I got to get him in my lineups. I don't have a great reason for it, just that now he's my boy. We did a rap video together, and that's all I need. What do you say, Dan? Is that a good enough reason to roster a guy in my DraftKings lineups?
Firstly, I got to give you credit for pronouncing his last name correctly. It's not Quarantillo, it's Quarantillo. So congratulations. Nice. You said that right. I mean, it just depends if Mowgli slows down or not, because that first round, I'm telling you right now, Mowgli is going to bust Billy Q up, and I'm a huge Billy Q fan, so I think even Billy Q knows that the first round is going to be super tough. It just depends what happens in that second and third. Like, is Mowgli going to slow down? The weight cuts too much? Because you slow down against a guy like Billy Q, and he will turn up on you. So that's the big question here. But if Mowgli doesn't slow down, I mean, Mowgli's technique is better. Mowgli's just better. It's just about, is he going to slow down or not? Because this guy, Billy Q, is the kind of guy that'll will himself to victory. And, if you haven't been running your miles, if you've been slacking on that weight cut, if your cardio ain't up to par, like, Billy Q is the guy to test it. So it just depends what version of Mowgli shows up. But you give me a good Mowgli, and I think he wins this fight. I think he's better.
Big Marl, do you think the volume of Quarantillo over the course of 3 rounds will overwhelm the, listen, let's face it, Benitez, older fighter, not known for shoot tons of volume. Like, he's not known for that. That's not what he's good at. So do you think over the course of the 3 rounds that Billy Q catches up, overtakes, gets us an underdog win here?
Yeah, I picked him in a split decision. Billy winning rounds 2, rounds 3, with round 2 being close. I agree with Dan's breakdown. I just think the lines, I had it just a little bit closer than the books, really. Not even that much, so I went with the underdog. But yeah, he's the only other volume guy on the card. It's him and Rodriguez are the only guys who have a shot at landing, 100 plus strikes on the feet, I feel like. And he can get some takedowns as well, but it's all going to have to be later in the fight, because I do think Benitez is winning the first round, maybe even finishes Billy in that first round too. So I definitely like Benitez as a favorite play, but Quarantillo is going to be one of the 3. I think that's my last underdog winner. So that's 3 underdog guys I'm picking on the card. I'll just be sprinkling them in.
Yeah, I mean, I like Billy here as well, not just because he was on Tavon's rap, but really, listen, when I look at Benitez, his wins have not been very impressive to me as of late. And he does have wins, but really, when I say this, they're not impressive wins. Justin James, we've seen what the deal is with him. Humberto Bandenay, disaster since that loss. Disaster in the UFC overall. I mean, I like Jason Knight, but Sam Sicilia, this is not a group of fighters that when you beat them, you're telling me, all right, I'm in even an upper echelon of UFC. All it tells me is that, you don't belong, you don't deserve to be kicked out of the UFC right away. Like, that's the kind of wins he's been having. So, just wiki capping that alone, I'm not super impressed by Benitez overall. I like the volume of Billy Q. I like the 7 strikes per minute. Love the high energy. Not going to hold a loss to Gavin Tucker against him. And again, he doesn't have signature wins either. But I'll take the. He's actually not younger, which is surprising. But the fresher, what feels like more on the upswing fighter in Billy Q. And we need underdogs. I don't really have any interest in. I don't have any interest in Benitez really on this card, other than praying for a flash KO, which. I 5%. Like I don't need that in my lineup. So it's an easy pass on the favorite for me.
I think this is the highest paced fight on the card, though, and like I think with Billy Q's somewhat aggressiveness is going to help out Benitez's possible scoring here. So I don't know. I don't think it's a good idea to X out Benitez. I would say I just think this will be fight of the night.
It could be an exciting fight, but like I said, even if Benitez wins, he's a favorite. So 8,500, it's not cheap enough. So I have to sacrifice somebody who could score a lot for this guy. I'll give you this. When he gets the fast early finish, he scores, but that requires like a within 60 seconds knockout. So I want to allow for that possibility.
Billy's a late starter.
What's that?
Billy's a late starter. Maybe it just happens and he never gets to start.
I'm going to allow for that possibility. But this is also a guy who has scored 57 and 63 points in a win. So I think, and 68. This is a guy that you have to get. I think it's bizarre when he gets an early finish. Like, it's not the expectation. It's a surprise for me. What's the mushroom kick? I need to know about this. So is that a Benitez kick that that I don't know about? The mushroom kick? Do you know anything about that, Big Marl?
Nah, doesn't even sound familiar.
What's the mushroom kick, Dan? Do you know about this?
I think there's like some kind of urban myth about Rodriguez having a hidden mushroom tattoo in a place that you don't want to see.
Oh, yeah, when they were on shrooms and yeah. I've heard. I thought we were talking about Benitez.
I didn't know. I didn't see. I just saw that now. So there we go. Probably will see a mushroom kick then if it's hidden in that spot where we don't get to see it. All right.
Oh, I remember what it was. So it was him and like Joe Schilling. In the last fight, Schilling's in the corner. He said, "Hey, remember when we were doing shrooms in the desert and you were doing that kick? Do that right now."
Okay. All right. Joe Schilling will not be in his corner. I understand that he is having some legal concerns at the moment.
How did I come up with this hidden tattoo thing then?
maybe that's something too. I don't know.
But the mushroom imagery just kind of like seems to be appropriate. All right. I've got a big take on this next fight, boys, and I'm gonna start the breakdown if you don't mind. So I've got a hot take that I noticed in watching the tape, and I want your guys' opinion on it as you break this next one down, if you don't mind, if you'll allow me one. Right? So we've got Rodolfo Vieira taking on Justin Stoltzfus, right? Vieira coming in minus 250, 245, the favorite. Stoltzfus, slight underdog, plus 200. This is a massive inside the distance prop. I would imagine fucking smaller than I thought. Minus 250 should be higher than that, in my opinion. So here's my take. Like, the first component of this breakdown, Vieira, an insanely muscled jiu-jitsu master, right? Everybody talks about this guy as the most credentialed BJJ guy outside of a Damian Maia in the UFC right now. Talking on the level of DuBronx, all these kind of guys, but actually maybe even more credentialed because he's winning all these jiu-jitsu tournaments. And I think that's a really, really important component of the psychology of this man. And again, I'm going to get to something, and I have a theory about him that I want you guys to really give me your feedback on. So he's taken on Dustin Stoltzfus, who he has a wrestler. He seems to have some BJJ, like a normal UFC fighter. Fine. Nice, normal UFC fighter, has wrestling, has takedowns, goes for submissions of his own, has some skills in that arena. I don't think this fight is about Stoltzfus at all. This is about Vieira. Now, here's what I observed, and this is why. So we know that Vieira is an epic gasser. We've seen a gassing situation from this man like nothing I've ever seen before. A disaster, right? Jiu-jitsu, gas, disaster, gets knocked out by Fluffy. I have a theory about this.
Submitted.
What's that?
Choked out by Fluffy.
Wait, how did he finish him?
Guillotine,
right?
Yeah, guillotine, but he wanted it. He let him guillotine him. That was, he wanted out. He wanted out of the fight.
But he didn't knock him out. He choked him out.
Oh, fair. Here's my theory, Dan. Big Marley. Vieira comes from the world of grappling, jiu-jitsu, gets into MMA. So I'm going to use my skill set from my awesomeness at jiu-jitsu to dominate the UFC scene. Fine. Here's the problem. This man is not comfortable getting hit at all. He doesn't like it. He's not a fighter. He's a jiu-jitsu man. And I think that we see in the, and Dan, the reason I believe, and this is very, very this is what I saw from the fights that I saw of this guy. The reason that he's gassing out is because his fear of standing and striking with another fighter is so great because of his disdain for getting hit that he doesn't even allow a second of it. So he almost goes into a panic if his opposition is getting up or able to hit him. So he, I saw it in the Fluffy fight, that he would not allow any because he is probably, for me, I think he's the worst striker I've ever. I don't want to say ever. Vinicius Maria is in the UFC, but he's on that Vinicius Mohea, whatever level of one of the worst strikers I've ever seen. He is just terrible, and he gets hit and he doesn't like it. He feels it. He doesn't like it, and this is the reason why he fights at the massive, because I imagine that a guy who's fighting in BJJ tournaments should have more than 3 or 4 minutes of stamina. Well, when you're fighting in that tournament, you don't have this extra fear of somebody beating the shit out of you and punching you in the face when you take a minute to relax. So my theory on Vieira is the reason that he simply won't ever be a very good UFC fighter and simply cannot last a long time in the octagon is because his horrible stand-up and striking, which is, again, for me, probably up there with the worst I've ever seen, combined with the fear of getting hit, causes him to be so panicked about getting the takedown and maintaining a grappling position that he allows himself to gas out if he doesn't get that finish. Now, with that being said, as far as breaking down this fight, I think it's very clear. That's why I think minus 250 on the odds is probably too low. It's very clear to me that he's going to do exactly what he's done in the past, which is grapple almost in a panic to try to get a submission to maintain a grappling position. So if Stoltzfus has just enough in him to both avoid the submission, which is no easy task, and also put a little bit of pressure in terms of being able to stand back up at some point along the way, and actually get some striking in, and you will see he will beat the shit out of Vieira. Vieira is just not somebody who should strike with anybody in the UFC. That's my opinion, that this fight will not last very long at all because of that fear that Vieira has of striking with another individual. Dan, I'm going to throw this to you because that's a pretty intense take that I just threw at you, and I want to get your feedback on what you think about what I just said.
It's speculative because we've only seen him gas out like that once. If it was like a recurring thing, then I'd be more willing to buy into that theory. So there's a chance what you're saying is true, though, obviously, because if it happens again, then you would have been right all along. The only thing that I'm worried about is that we're quick to brush this guy off and discount him because of one bad performance. Like, what if he got sick the night before? What if he had a shitty wake up? Because I've seen him go past the first round more than once and never gas like that. So
in a BJJ fight, or in a
UFC fight,
okay,
and in a fight prior to the UFC. So, that it's not like a Fluffy fight was the first time he's been past the first round. If it was, then it'd be like, dude, like all you got to do is extend them. I do agree that if you make this guy work, that there wasn't a pretty sight last time. It wasn't a good visual at all. So, but you got to get him to that spot. How's Stoltzfus' ground game? I mean, he got taken down twice in his debut. He got taken down on Contender Series. So I expect him to get taken down here. It's just about, can he make this guy work or not? I mean, do you feel confident enough that he's going to make him work? Like, firstly, what belt is Stoltzfus in jiu-jitsu?
I have no idea what belt he is, or
Well,
or
that matters because if he's a white belt, he's getting subbed in the first round.
He's got a twister win. I doubt he's a white belt.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is a grappler. Like, when you watch his fights, he's winning by submission. So my feeling is he, at the very least, he knows this. I mean, it was the same as Fluffy, right? Fluffy's kind of like a guy that we're not super impressed by as a fighter, but he is a grappler and he knows how to submit people. His record and Fluffy, similar to me. Similar skill set, potentially.
I mean, Fluffy, like, beat Brennan Allen over a 5-round period. We know Fluffy's got good cardio. We don't really know much about this kid except that he gassed out in 2 seconds in his UFC debut. I expect him to look better this time. I just don't really know much about him, much enough. And then with Vieira, it's all speculative because we've only seen him have that horrific, cardio dump once. Like, is it going to happen again? It might happen again. I just don't really know. It's tough. Like, this is the fight that's going to let me know. But then again, if he turns out to be this complete fraud and he loses again here, then next fight he's not going to be a big favorite. So that's why you got to make that guess beforehand. So if you come out here, you cash this dog bet, much respect to you. I personally, I don't really know, man. I got so many damn questions because I've only seen this guy gas out once. And then Stoltzfus, he gassed out his last fight too. He looked horrendous his last fight. So I'm not sure. I'll lean with Vieira.
I also want to point out that Sapabeg Safarov lit this dude up in striking exchanges.
Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, if you watched it, Sapabeg Safarov was lighting him up. There wasn't that much of it. There wasn't that much, but again, it's part of the striking is absolutely horrific. Like, he was getting lit up by there was only very small spurts of striking in that fight, but when it happened, Safarov, who is Sapabeg Safarov, was lighting him up, and that contributed to my thought. Like, this guy just, if you hit him, he just goes into a panic.
According to the numbers, Safarov landed 5 total strikes that fight. So
there was very few strikes, but they lit him up.
His nose or something,
busted
right?
His face open. Like, again, there was very little space to throw a strike, and when he did, I mean, it was just gross. And so anyway, I mean, Big Marley, what do you say? A, about the theory that he's scared to get hit, and B, overall on this fight, I think this fight is going to end inside the distance and score massive for the winner, whichever side it is. I give Vieira an absolute chance of a take. He will 100% take this dude down, grapple the shit out of him. It's just a question, does he survive the explosion? Can he put up a resistance? But one way or another, somebody's scoring a lot of points in this one. A shitload of points.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'm sure he's scared to get hit. I don't think anyone likes to get hit, but he also knows that he's not going to be winning any fights on the feet. So he's just got the one path to victory, and that's going to be against basically anybody. And I mean, if fights were just one round, he's a title contender for sure because he's so strong, he's so dominant, he can get takedowns, and then once you're on the ground, you're in his world. But that strength and those takedowns and all that ground game comes with a lot of energy spent. And if it doesn't work in the first 2 rounds, I don't know how he's going to look going forward. But at the same time, Stoltzfus isn't really a guy who's just going to push the pace on Vieira like Fluffy was. So even if Vieira gasses, it wouldn't shock me to see Stoltzfus like let him off the hook and just lose the 3rd round instead of finish him in the 3rd round. But I do think Stoltzfus is a good submission game. I think he could get a knockout against a gassed Vieira, or I guess even a fresh Vieira. He just doesn't strike me as that, knockout guy while Vieira is going to be in there powerful. So I expect just a dominant first half of the fight from Vieira, and he's either going to finish it and score very highly, or I think Stoltzfus can finish him late or make it an interesting decision. But I don't see a high score coming from Stoltzfus. I think there's a good chance he's losing the first round badly. And then if he can get a 2nd round knockout or submission, then sure, that's great. But 3rd round, I don't even know if that would be enough as an underdog. So for me, it's more so Vieira, not or pass. I do want some Stoltzfus, but Vieira is more the one that I'm interested in for DraftKings. And he's where it all starts in that upper tier, 8.7K and up. I want them all. So what can you afford? I think that's going to decide who wins 100K is whoever gets that range right. And I'm just going to be mixing them in. I want different combinations of all of them. I don't know what I'm going to do in single entry with it. Just probably whatever fits, and I have 0 left on the table in this one. This is not going to be a card where I'm leaving salary on the table. I'm just going to be mixing in these 8.7K and up and doing whatever I can with the underdogs kind of thing.
Absolutely. I'm just going to bring it back around. I do think Stoltzfus is one of the better tournament underdog plays on this card, because what we've seen in the past is when a fighter does gas out, the other fighter lights them up from a fantasy scoring perspective. And especially, like I said, I don't believe, and I'm going to tell you with all my heart, I do not believe that a gassed out Vieira could last a round in the ring with any fighter. If he's not able, with any fighter in the UFC, if he's not able to, if he doesn't have the energy in round 2 to go for more takedowns, like if he does gas the way he did in the last fight, he's going to get lit up and give up a gigantic score in his loss, even in round 3. So
I also wouldn't expect, that fast and bad of a gas out. That was like he landed 4 hard takedowns against a really working Fluffy, and maybe he gets 1 takedown, just dominates in top control. I don't think that's going to take nearly as much out of him, and maybe go into the 3rd round and survive type of thing. I don't think it's going to get worse than what we saw anyways.
No, it hinges on, can he put up resist? You saw those muscles when he's fighting. It's just, you watch this guy and there's almost a panic in what he's doing. He's awesome. And I would bet just about any money in the world that it doesn't take him but, the first 20 seconds of the fight or 30 seconds to get that initial takedown against Stoltzfus. I have 0 doubt he will have plenty of, I don't even care what your takedown defense is. Like, this is not a guy who's going to stop that first couple of takedowns from Vieira. It's just a question of, can he survive? Can he resist? Can he even throw little strikes from underneath to bother this guy? Watch the fight. And again, it could just go a complete domination, destruction. That will not change my opinion of what I said. But I'm telling you, Vieira, my gut is telling me this guy's afraid to get hit. And he fights guy. Listen, I know, because I'm afraid to get hit. And that's how I have experience knowing this. Like, this is exactly how I'd be like a fucking lunatic for about 2 minutes. And then after that, I'm like, oh, I'm out. I speak from experience, Dan, as a guy who's afraid to get hit. I know that.
As another guy that's afraid to get hit, you got to respect Rodolfo Vieira's jiu-jitsu.
I definitely do. That's what I'm saying. I ain't fading Rodolfo Vieira, but if he's not winning fast, I want this other guy in my lineup, because he's going to take over and he's going to take over and put up a gigantic score. Plus, we need underdogs. All right, let's move on to the next fight on the card. And this is a lot. I can't wait. I cannot wait to hear both of your takes on this one. Matez Gamrot taking on Lil Heathen Jeremy Stephens. Gamrot minus 220 favorite. Interesting. With Stephens coming in as a plus 175 underdog. Again, interesting. Fight doesn't go decision, minus 160. So we've got like a pretty, they're leaning, doesn't go to decision. Again, interesting. A lot of interesting things going on in these numbers. Dan, I'm going to start with you. Matez Gamrot favored pretty heftily against a pretty proven UFC fighter in Jeremy Stephens. It's interesting. What do you say, man?
Listen, if you have aspirations of being in the top 15 and you haven't figured out how to beat Jeremy Stephens yet, there's a problem. So basically, the blueprint's been laid out for years on how to beat this guy. You out-volume him. You mix in takedowns, leg kicks, jabs. I just think as long as Gamrot doesn't, get into an unnecessary, firefight, then he's probably going to win a decision here. Just by playing it safe, just by being smarter, just by not being a meathead. So I'm going to go with Gamrot. Not necessarily sure it scores that highly. I mean, there is a chance for a finish. Jeremy is getting up there in age. I was actually very surprised about Gamrot's last finish. I didn't think he was going to knock out Scotty like that. So maybe he knocks out Jeremy too. But regardless, I'll take Gamrot to win a decision here just by being smarter.
Here we go. BigMarley, how do you think this one goes down?
Yeah, I agree. I think on the feet it's real close. But I think if Gamrot plays it smart, he can land 1 or 2 takedowns in a round, and that could just put the stamp on the round for him. But I lined it closer than the books did. I had Gamrot like around a 60% favorite. So I would say it's dog or pass on the line, but I don't know that that's going to mean Stevens scores highly unless he gets a knockout. But I do think if this goes to a decision and it's a striking decision, Stevens can get 10x or more, whereas I don't think Gamrot would get 10x if he's not wrestling. But at the same time, he could get 5-6 takedowns. I think Stevens will be able to get back up, which could lead to more takedowns from Gamrot. I don't know. I just have a hard time seeing how this fight's going to play out in my head. I just think it's going to be a somewhat close fight where Gamrot wins via takedowns, 29-28 type of deal, and he scores 75, 80 points, something like that. So I won't be too high on it because I think they're big enough names. Stevens is going to get ownership just because of his name. The guy's 15-17 in the UFC, so people are also going to be targeting against him. That'll lead to Gamrot being more on than I want also. So I'll probably just be focusing more on the stars scrubs type of approach and not get this one in mini lineups. I guess unless Stevens is one of those scrubs.
I'm gonna go a little bit different than you guys did in this one. I am not down on Jeremy Stevens for taking L's to Calvin Kattar, Yair Rodriguez, Zabit Magomed Sharapov, or
you're going to name all 17 of them?
Yeah, I want to name them because these are fucking goats. These are some of the greatest fighters. Like, these are the best names. He fights the best guy. Does he lose to the best guys? Okay, Max Holloway. He's been fighting the best of the best for, I don't know, this is 2015 we went back to, and literally the best names in the UFC in the division. I believe he's moving up in weight class to 155 here, which is probably a good thing for him overall. He's 5'9", like he's a big dude. He's a big enough guy that he makes sense at this division. And who the fuck is Marthez Gamrot to be favored 2-1 against Jeremy Stevens? This is a guy, I get it. He knocked out Holtzman. Anybody can knock anybody out in this game. But, like, he's not the wrestler that Frankie Edgar is or Renato Moicano or any of these guys. I mean, this is a guy who's been in there against the best of the best. So I just find it a little almost like insulting that Stevens is such a big underdog against such an unproven opponent in Gamrot. This guy does not have wins against anyone with any sort of where you could take it away and go, all right, yeah, that's for real. And he then losing a lot of fights recently, but against guys who are the absolute best of the best. So I think every one of those guys who beat Stevens would whoop the shit out of Gamrot most likely. And for me, I need underdogs on a card. I have zero interest in Gamrot. I'm also, like Stevens gets taken down by Frankie Edgar, who's successful like 33% of his takedown attempts against Stevens. Stevens, wrestler. I don't know that Gamrot's going to be able to take him down. And I think Stevens a better striker on the feet from what I've seen. So this is my underdog, my favorite underdog on the card. Give me little Heath here. Could he suck now? Could he have fallen off the cliff? Guy's had a lot of fights in his career. It's definitely possible, but he's 35 years old. I'm gonna play it as if no, he hasn't. He's not old and done, but rather he just had a string of really, really tough, high-level opponents that we never thought he was going to beat anyway. Every one of those fights, we weren't on him. We thought he was going to lose, and that happened. So I'm not going to hold it against him. Give me a little Heathen here as one of my favorite underdogs on this card. Got to play some underdogs. This is one of the ones where I just think I agree with you, Big Marley. I just think the line is wrong. Even if Stevens loses, shouldn't be such a big underdog. Not against an unproven guy. He is a proven guy. So I like me some little Heath over here to get this W. Okay. Next up. Miesha Tate makes her comeback against the 44-year-old Marion Renault. Miesha Tate out for a little bit. Couple babies later, she's coming back to the UFC. She's coming in as a slight minus 144 favorite. Renault, slight underdog, plus 118. Fight goes to decision. Pretty high number, actually. And I kind of like the doesn't go to decision prop here. But minus 275, fight goes to decision. Big Marley, I don't know what to do with someone who's been out of MMA for 5 years. At the same time, I don't know what to do with a 44-year-old lady who says she's going to retire. Tough, super tough lady, but who says she's going to retire after this fight. So, I mean, make sense of it. How do you judge Miesha Tate? We haven't seen her in years.
Yeah, I mean, she looks good on her Instagram. She looks like she's in best shape of her life. Even she looks pretty strong. But other than that, I have no idea what she's going to look like after 5 years off and one or at least one kid, maybe 2 kids. I don't even know. But at the same time, I do think this is a great matchup for her to come back in. I would say Renault's the better boxer, and maybe if she can just keep a striking fight here for 15 minutes, then she's live to win, but she'll slow down as the fight goes on. And I think Tate is going to be the better wrestler. She'll have success in top control, and she's live for a submission. But my issue with Tate is, like, she's only 8,200 here, and she's only got more than 10x that one time, and it took a knockout to get there. So I don't know that she scores highly because she's not going to be high output. It's got to all come through the ground for her to score highly, and that would probably be needing a submission. So I might just X this fight out. I have really no interest in Renault. I don't see this being a 15-minute striking match, so I'm going to take Tate to win, but probably scores 70 points or something like that, and I don't really want that in my lineup either. So Tate for the win, but I'm not too interested on either side in DraftKings.
Yeah, Big Mar, I don't know how it stays standing because my girl, Marion Renault, is not necessarily known for being good at stopping takedowns. And
yeah, I think she's been taken down in like her last 10 fights or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like she's not that good at that. I mean, Dan, what do we do with this Miesha Tate off for 5 years? Never much of a volume girl. You know, women's mixed martial arts has been evolving like crazy. Just in general, I mean, it's beautiful to watch the evolution of women's MMA. It reminds me of when I started watching MMA overall in 1991, and just how different the fighters would become after, like, every couple of years. Like, the level up was insane. We're seeing that with women's, and Miesha Tate's kind of one of these old school names. She's not that old at 34 years old, but can she come back and look good in her debut again against a retiring, way older than her opponent?
Possibly, but I mean, I'm just surprised that Kevin didn't give us a speech about people that don't like getting hit here with Miesha Tate.
She's another one does not like getting hit too. I mean, but you know, she also doesn't like throwing strikes.
I mean, she retired for a reason. That fight against Raquel Pennington, I mean, we can talk about the Amanda Nunes, but we can also write it off because it's Nunes. But that Raquel Pennington fight, when she told Brian Caraway in between rounds that she didn't have it anymore, and now we're going to bet on her 5 years later, fuck that, man. Like, I understand Marian's 44 years old, but hasn't the story of Marian's career always been that she's old? I don't see in these last few performances that it's an age thing that she's losing. It's a takedown defense thing that she's losing, which has always been an issue. But Marion Renault is someone that finished Jessica Andrade, finished Sarah McMahon, and Saturday night, I think she's going to finish Miesha Tate with an opportunistic submission.
Unreal. You know, this is why this stuff is hard, right? If it was easy, everybody would just print cash and make all this money, right? It's hard. You're looking at a 44-year-old Marion Renault, and we've seen her do the opportunistic submission. We've seen her getting her ass kicked, quite honestly, against McMahon. But that's what McMahon, I don't know. Do I blame McMahon for that? Like, every fucking fight, she does the same thing. We've seen it from her. I think the fear, Dan, of getting hit will cause Miesha Tate to aggressively go for these takedowns, more so than she has averaged over the course of her career, even if it does anything. Well, but I don't think she's probably going to gas out. I don't think that's like her issue at all. This is just a tough one to call. I saw a lot of wrestling out of Tate in past fights that we looked at. But again, the last few fights, you're looking at Rocky Pennington and Amanda Nunes. I mean, you know, how the fuck did we not know that Amanda Nunes was going to be the GOAT? Yeah, I kind of did, I guess, you know, but like seeing what she did to Miesha Tate in that fight was just, you know, such a precursor for what became of Amanda. She was that awesome back then. We just, you know, she just had to beat Ronda Rousey. We all still were fucking under the Ronda Rousey spell for a minute. But, I don't know. I'm going to lean Tate in this one. I'm going to lean Tate because she has takedowns in her game. But Dan, I totally am on board with what you're saying too. So I think you probably don't want to full fade this one. That's all I'm saying. It feels like we should full fade it, but maybe for that reason, and it's going to be super low owned, we don't full fade it. We play a little bit of both sides. Let it be. What was the one last week, Kyle, that we needed, that we didn't want it? Arena Aldana, Kyle Marley fucking kill shot. That's what led to taking down tournaments last week. That's what led to winning tournament. As a matter of fact, Kyle, let me let you in on something, bro. I didn't like Arena Aldana. I was one of the fucking goons who liked Yana. But not only that, I just didn't think Arena Aldana could score enough to be in the winning lineup. So, of course, after the fight, after the event, when I lost all my money, I'm not going to lie, lost all my money, was at Sun Tzu's house. Thank God my boy Sun Tzu bought the chicken parm and the lobster claws for us, because I walked out, I had nothing. No money in my pockets, had to borrow $15 from Sun Tzu to pay the tolls on the way home. That's how much money I lost on that card last week. And the reason I did it was because I didn't play Arena Aldana. And then I go back and I sit and I rerun my lineups and I just say, you know, what if I just played 10% of Areni? Guess what? All it took was 10% of Aldana to hit the nuts lineup, bro. That's it. I just had to have that one adjustment. Exactly the same. Just add a little bit of Aldana exposure. Boom. 635.36. Winning score. DraftKings. All the money. Chicken parms on me, Sun Tzu. But no. I walked away penniless.
Maybe next time you'll listen.
Should have listened to the Marley kill shot. That's the lesson that I learned from that. But also that when it looks like a turd fight like this one, and it looks like a fucking turd fight, sometimes you got to get a little exposure to that one. Because is Miesha Tate live for a rear naked choke finish in the first round? Man, hell yeah, she is. This is Marion Renault. Is Marion Renault live for some crazy ass submission off of bottom? We've seen her do it. Sure. So you get a little bit of exposure to this one, even if it looks like a stinker on paper.
Yeah. All right, you guys sold me. I'll get a little bit of exposure.
Got it. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm not making this up. I went back and I reran the lineups in back test mode. I just like slapped a 10% minimum on Areni, and boom, I'm like, motherfucker, there's the nuts lineup right there. All I needed to do was that. No other change. Hindsight, no other change. Then I felt like an idiot. I had no glory, no screenshot to show anybody because I didn't listen to Big Marley. Deserved it, actually.
Terrible.
Literally deserved it.
I had her in a single entry, probably double the field in my MMEs, but I don't remember what it was. Something early cost me. I don't remember what it was.
John locked Aldana when you fucking mentioned it. You probably won some money last week. Probably won a lot of money. All right, boys. Main event time. This one, you know what? We talked a lot ahead of the main event because this one, you know, I like to fight, but I mean, shouldn't be competitive. We've got Islam Makhachev taking on Thiago Moises. Makhachev, a massive -850 favorite, with Moises coming in at a pretty hefty +540 underdog. Money coming in. Makhachev on everybody's parlay. First piece. So, Dan, Makhachev looks like the next big deal to me in the UFC. You know, Khabib is gone. This guy looks like he could be a big deal. How do you see? I mean, is there any way that this fight goes down? I mean, obviously there is, but I mean, what do you see happening here? Are you giving Thiago much of a shot?
Listen, he's tough, man. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He hits hard. He's experienced. He's paid his dues. He gets better every fight. So I don't think it's just going to be a walkthrough for Makhachev, but I definitely think Makhachev is going to win. My only thing is I'm not sure if he's going to finish because Makhachev, they try to compare him to Khabib just because he's Russian, but he doesn't really fight like Khabib. Khabib is more of a ground and pound guy. Makhachev is more of a submission guy. So submitting a black belt, I don't really see that happening. I think if he gets a finish, it will be ground and pound. But honestly, I see it going all five. And, you know, if you like takedowns and top control, Islam Makhachev is your guy. So if there's a submission, it's probably Moises actually. But the distance, I got to go with Islam Makhachev. And guys, my little puppy is fucking driving me crazy right now. So I got to give you my kill shot right now because I got to get out of here before he pisses all over my apartment. So you said you weren't too sure about Gamrot. I think Gamrot's going to knock out Jeremy Stevens in the first round. So I'm going Gamrot as my kill shot. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Good stuff, Dan.
All right, brother. Talk to you all both soon.
All right. Now, BigMarley. Makhachev. We already talked about how this card really comes down to making choices between all of these super sexy favorites. We don't got to make a choice if we're running a parlay. Making a parlay, I don't give a fuck. Makhachev, all of these guys are put in it. But the card itself, from a DraftKings FanDuel Super Draft perspective, it's really going to be like which of these guys we choose. So do you think Makhachev, he's got 5 rounds to do it. I mean, how much of a lock to score 110, 115 in this win are we really talking about?
Yeah, I don't know that he is a lock to score more than anyone at 8.7K and up if they win. But at the same time, he has an extra 2 rounds to work with now. He could get 20 minutes of control time in this fight. He could maybe get 10 takedowns. I think it's finish or bust for Moises. He has to get a submission or a one-shot knockout type deal. But throughout the fight, I just expect Makhachev to dominate every minute of it. Even on the feet, I think he's probably the better striker at this point. I don't even know, but why even test it when this is your main event spot? Go out there, show the world that you are the next Khabib. Go out and maul him on the ground. So that's what I expect. And I think even in 5 rounds, he's going to score over 100 points in any win, I would think. I also think he has the highest ceiling on the card. If he does actually, throw some ground strikes while he's down there, he could get a finish as well. So I definitely want Makhachev. It's just, I can't go all in like I would on a lot of other cards because I want Nascimento, I want Figueiredo, I want Vieira, I want Rodriguez, I want Lemos. So I'm not even going to I have no idea which 2 or even 3 if I could fit 3 of them in my single entry, but that's the route I'm going to take. There's going to be at least 2 people 8.7K up in my lineup, and then I got 3 dogs that I have winning on this card, so I'll put at least 2 of them in there just kind of see how it works out for me. But I have a feeling this will be a fun hand building type of lineup week, where maybe I want to throw in the 20 entry max type thing just to see how it goes. Because that's my strategy, 8.7K and up. And if I can afford Makhachev, I'll take him. But if I have no problem if I have $500 or $400 that would be too high and I need to go to somebody else, I'm cool with that. And maybe with him being the main event, he's going to be 50+% owned, you would think. Maybe the better move is to go a little bit underweight.
Look at what my boy Sunsu's coming in with. A little bit of Thiago Islam GPP stack.
I wouldn't even stack this in cash games.
I mean, I think you do have to stack it.
Nah, I think it's Makhachev. I just think it's Makhachev. I don't know how Moises scores in this fight.
I have a hard time seeing it too. I think this is one of those fights. There was a couple of other ones recently. I didn't see the line on Islam when I was just watching. I just started watching tape on Islam, and I started watching tape on Thiago, and I went, after watching a couple of the fights, and I don't know why I hadn't looked at the line first, but I came out of it going, wow, this is one of those times, those rare occasions where I think the underdog has no path to a win almost whatsoever, outside of some miraculous knockout or just something super, super unlikely. And I was like, if I thought it was going to be minus 350 or something, I'm like, I think I'm going to max bet this and just go in and go bananas on this bet and just risk my whole, sports betting bankroll. Every once in a while I do. Usually luckily when I do that and it blows up, I just put more money in there. But, I wanted to go Curtis Blades v. Derek Lewis on this one and bet my whole bankroll on the favorite. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, I don't see that scenario where this guy loses the fight. But then it was minus 850. And I was like, oh, all right. I guess everybody else already knew that. So,
I feel like you would need Islam to just completely dominate him for 3 or 4 rounds and then get finished. And that's how the stack would be on there.
I mean, listen, how does it, I don't know. I mean, if Islam is not going for takedown, let's say Moises can avoid getting taken down and there's a lot of striking back and forth. I guess he can get there. I mean, do you see Thiago?
I don't think anyone's just going to avoid takedowns against Islam, to be honest.
I don't think so
Gonna
either.
be too good, yeah.
I mean, I don't think so either. So, listen, my take on Thiago Moises is he's good. Again, he fought Alex Hernandez, and it was pretty close. So when I look at that, I go, all right, I get the level that this guy's at. He's better than Alex Hernandez. He's like, okay, he's a pretty good UFC fighter. Islam is like I might be the champion in the next year fighter. I don't know about the next year. What's this weight class?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, he's there now. He doesn't even really need to improve that much to be the champion, just as long as his game works.
It's just who's ahead of you in the division, really. I mean, like I said, I think
145. So it'd be Holloway, Volkanovski. I mean, I think he could beat anybody.
But a really good division here. You know, he's in a great division. So being third or fourth behind Max Holloway or behind Alexander Volkanov, I mean, that's pretty good company. And could you see Islam beating Volk? Yeah, I could see it.
Sun Tzu said Thiago will get grappling points over 5 rounds, but you don't get grappling points unless you're controlling the fight, and I don't see him ever controlling this fight. So I think it would be striking points off the ground or something like that. No, I just don't see how he scores without a win. The win bonus is the only points I really see him getting.
The reason it's tough is because I do see some underdogs winning on this card. But we did see last week that, Nico Price was in the nuts in a loss. So, that could happen. But I think a scenario has to go down.
Or Jessica, I was.
Was it? No. I think Nico Price wound up in the nuts.
I was on the winning lineup, though. I was pretty certain. Yeah, first place lineup, and the big one had I in it with the loss.
What was the score?
58 or something like that.
Oh, there was a 658?
Something around there.
I scored 58 points. No, I actually think. All right, so somebody verify that for me, because I actually think Price was a little cheaper than I, and even though he scored less, I think the perfect combo might have had Price in. Oh, there it is. No, John's saying I was nuts. Okay, so there it is. It was Jessica I in that one. Price in second place lineup. All right, there we go. Either way.
Yeah.
No underdogs won last week. I do think some underdogs will win on this card. So, but to Sun Tzu's point, it's worth a shot or two. But I think you need. I don't think that actually. There's no way it's the nuts if Thiago wins, because then Islam's not going to be in. I don't care what he does along the way. He won't get there with these other studs.
If he gets 10 takedowns, 20 minutes of control time, and he gets finished in the 5th round.
Yeah, I mean, if my fucking grandma had wheels, she'd be a wagon. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck does that have to do? The chances of that is so low. All right. Anyway, the big takeaway from this card, guys, for me, and Marley, I think we agree, is there's a lot of sexy pay-up options on this card. A lot. Yeah. I mean, if he could, going to do that against Islam, again, reversals. There's a lot of sexy pay-up.
I'd be impressed.
I need Sun Tzu. Where you, bro? Misha Tate, Jessica Reneau. I would dying for a winner. That's the one I need the help with. The big takeaway for me on this card is, again, those pay-up options all look really good. Vieira on up. Even just a lot of these favorites can score well. So my big thing is I'm not going to lock button Makhachev. Not just because I definitely think he wins this fight, and I think he scores very well in the win. But when you're paying 9,400, there's an opportunity cost. The other big takeaway for me is I will be 100% exposed to, I think 100% or in that level, exposed to Vieira Stolzfus. The only reason I could think of, again, not being 100%, if you paint a second round submission win scenario for Vieira where it just doesn't score. I don't understand how he can win a fight and just not be in the nuts lineup. Has he ever? I mean, when the guy wins, he scores 106 points. It's an exact number. He scores 106 when he wins. And if he wins here, I expect to score 106 points. Again, exactly. Because he's established that that's what he does. If he doesn't win, I'm telling you, Stoltzfus takes over for Agast Vieira, who's scared to get hit. Watch what I'm saying. I hope we get to see it in this fight so I can be like, I told you so. But usually when I say something like this, it doesn't happen in this fight, but then we see it in the next fight. And I'm like, yep, see, I told you that guy don't like to get hit. But Stoltzfus never got a chance to hit him. So we'll see. Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't fucking know. I just have a theory. It's a theory. But it's going to be about mixing up those favorites, getting the right group. And, we already talked about some of these underdogs that I kind of am throwing a lineup together that kind of gives a little bit of an example here. I could switch any one of these guys for a, Anderson Dos Santos type, for a Misha Tate. But we can comfortably fade a lot of these turds. And I think that makes for an interesting lineup construction this week. I'm excited to build lineups. Let me take a look one more thing here. Before we get into our kill shots. We already know Dan's kill shot. And it is Marley, do we accept the favored kill shot if we think he's not going to be high owned, right?
Yeah, as long as he's not going to be high owned. I expected Dan to say Renault, though.
I mean,
so she gets a submission over Tate. I think she's the kill shot.
That's a secondary kill shot. 350K showdown, 100K to first. So a pretty nice little contest here on DraftKings. 100K, I'm going after it. I know you're going after it. Let's talk about your kill shot, BigMarley Marl.
I'm going to go Anderson Dos Santos, first round finish.
ADS, I loves it. And you know why I loves the Anderson Dos Santos kill shot? Because my boy Vince, the kill shot master himself, DM'd me before this podcast began that he too likes Anderson Dos Santos. Now I got a Marley kill shot. Like, when you combine Marley and Vince into one kill shot, at that point, I'm probably going to bet this. Like, I'm keeping it real, bro. I'm probably going to get on the book right after we're done.
I would bet him inside the distance then.
That's fair. We'll throw a little inside the distance money on ADS. Let's see what I can get for Anderson inside the distance. Plus 325. Yes, please. To win 1 unit. Doesn't take a lot of risk. So I love it. Gonna bet it straight up. Not fucking around. My kill shot on this card is Jeremy Stephens. I don't like going up against Dan. I really don't. That was not my intention. He is the GOAT of MMA betting. I'm just a guy who enjoys watching the fights. But I'm going to tell you right now, who the fuck is Mark Gamrot to be favored over Stephens? Who are you?
Guess we'll find out on Saturday.
I'm going to tell you who he is, Marley, because I know him. He's a guy that lost to some other dude that I had never heard of, who I enjoyed very much, but nonetheless, you know who he is? He's a guy that lost to Guram Kutaladze. They might say, who the fuck is Guram Kutaladze? And my answer is, that's what I'm talking about. Never even heard of him before that fight. I like Guram. Love his heart, love his spirit. Doesn't look anything like this picture, by the way. Don't know who this guy is. I watched him fight. It didn't look anything like this dude. He's like 15 years older than this photograph here, I'm pretty sure, because...
I might pick that guy over Stephens. I feel like I never pick Stephens.
I don't pick Stephens either, but like he's going up against... This is what I'm saying. You get so used to him losing all the time. He's losing to Zabit Magomed Sharapov, Yair Rodriguez, and Jose Aldo. I'm just like, those are... Let me see him against the normal fighter, not against the best fighters ever to fight in UFC. Like,
yeah, it's a good matchup.
Don't forget,
and we'll find out who Gamrot is. Is he good or not? If he gets beat by Stephens, he's not going anywhere.
I don't think even getting beat by Stephens ruins his career. I'm just saying, like,
I don't know that there's any ceiling if you're getting beat by Stephens.
That's fair. That's fair. You holding against Stephens that he lost to Calvin Kattar? Like, Calvin Kattar's fucking good, bro.
He looked great in that fight too.
Yeah, I think Calvin Kattar is one of those fighters that's very, very good. Yair Rodriguez. Okay. Aldo, Zabit. I'm just saying it's a bit of a stretch to have this guy as a 2-1 underdog. Like, I don't get it. So I'm gonna play some of that. But we already talked about our favorite, like some of these underdogs we like. Quarantillo, Misha Tate for cheap. So enough underdogs, I think, on this card. And, maybe it's Preston Parsons that winds up in the nuts lineup. I couldn't make Dustin Stoltzfus my kill shot because that's more of just a hedge play. Like, I'm just going to have a lot of them. But I don't really think he's going to win. But I just definitely think he can win. And he can win and score really well. So
For sure. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see ownership.
Yeah, ownership's going to be awesome. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for the Killshot Makhachev versus Moises breakdown. Yeah, John's got 5 to 10%. That's what you got to do. Get a little bit. If he surprises with that wrestling, just you had exposure, and that's what you need. I'm looking forward, Marley, to seeing your ownership projections coming out tomorrow. And guys, just a reminder, we have our cheat sheets on the DFS Army website. Every one of us with our win picks, our fight ratings, really designed to help you craft your DraftKings lineup. So jump on there, check out the cheat sheets. We'll be in DFS Army Community Discord talking about the fights, sweating them out together with all of you guys as we watch them on Saturday night. Good luck, everybody, this weekend. I hope to see each and every one of you. There's a great line. I'm trying to figure out how I can repeat it. One of these comedians, he's like, I hope you fucking make a ton of money, bro. And you better fucking hope I make money too. I want all of us to make a fucking ton of money. Like, that's how I feel. I gotta figure out how to. You ever see that? You know what I'm talking about? There's a routine.
Yeah, but I like it. It's good.
Yeah, it's like, I hope you make a fucking shit ton of money, bro. And you better hope I make fucking money.
It's a good way to go out. Yeah, we should make that a thing going forward. Figure out a good line for it. Yeah.
I need to figure out quite how to deliver that one. All right, guys. Good luck this weekend. Again, sorry for the douche sunglasses. I don't normally do that, but I was out by the beach or by the pool for a bit, and I kind of couldn't find my regular glasses. So there we go. Good luck this weekend, everyone. Deuces.
Good luck.